of the several states. Now, your honours, I must address a matter that is rarely discussed openly, yet it is of utmost importance. When a constitutional man, a true man, fully aware of his rights under common law, walks into the courtroom, we must bow in recognition of his authority. This is not the so-called sovereign citizen we hear about from various sources, often portrayed as a nuisance or threat to the system. No, I am speaking of a man who is truly knowledgeable of his constitutional rights and understands that he is the source of your power. He stands as a grantor, and we, as judges and officers of the court, are merely trustees over his constitutionally protected rights. Judge of the General District Court, Chief Justice, are you suggesting that we owe this individual a level of deference not typically extended to others in the courtroom? Chief Justice: precisely. This individual is not subject to the same presumptions we often rely upon in the courtroom. He knows that his rights, endowed by God and recognized by the Constitution, are above statutory or administrative law. In this capacity, he stands as a sovereign, not in the sense of the misinterpreted sovereign citizen movement, but as a true sovereign man under common law, one who abides by natural law and knows that the source of all governmental power is derived from the people, particularly from men like him. Judge of the General District Court, how do we recognize such a man when he enters the courtroom? What distinguishes him from the many others who may claim to challenge the system? Chief Justice: the distinction is in his understanding and his demeanor. A true constitutional man does not simply assert his rights through anger or belligerence. Instead, he calmly and firmly asserts his position, knowing full well that his rights are derived from natural law and the Constitution. He does not operate within the statutory framework unless he consents to do so. His authority is clear, and it is your responsibility to recognize that authority when he invokes it. He is not simply participating in the system, he is reminding you that the system exists because of him, and that we, as trustees, are bound to respect and protect his rights. Judge of the General District Court, but what if this constitutional man challenges the court's authority or refuses to acknowledge the jurisdiction of the statutory system? Chief Justice: if he challenges the court's authority on constitutional grounds, it is because he recognizes that his rights are not subject to the whims of statutory law. He knows that the courts, when properly operating, are there to uphold the Constitution and protect his rights, not to impose obligations on him based on assumptions or contracts he has not knowingly entered. In such a case, you must be mindful that this man is asserting his lawful position as the grantor, the one who has delegated limited authority to the state under the Constitution. He is, in essence, your sovereign. He must be treated with the respect and deference his position commands, for he stands as a representative of the people who originally granted the government its limited powers. Judge of the General District Court, Chief Justice, this is quite different from how we are accustomed to viewing the courtroom dynamic. Typically, the court is seen as the highest authority in the room. Chief Justice: that is true for most proceedings, but when a constitutional man enters the courtroom, the hierarchy shifts. Remember, your authority as a judge is granted by the people, specifically by those who understand and assert their rights under common law. The constitutional man stands at the pinnacle of that authority structure, not the court. He is not subject to your jurisdiction in the same way as others, for he has not consented to operate within the statutory system that we often enforce by default. Instead, we are his trustees, charged with upholding and protecting his rights. Judge of the General District Court, how then should we proceed when confronted with such a man? If he is truly the sovereign, do we defer to his position outright? Chief Justice, you must proceed with great care and respect. The first step is to acknowledge his standing. He may challenge your jurisdiction, and if his challenge is valid, you must respect it. The courtroom, in this instance, becomes a place where his rights are affirmed, not questioned. You are there to ensure that his rights are not infringed upon, and to uphold the Constitution that recognizes those rights as supreme. If necessary, dismiss the case or address his concerns without invoking statutory law that does not apply to him. The key is to recognize that he is operating under a different set of legal principles rooted in the common law and the Constitution, rather than the statutory framework most others are subject to. Judge of the General District Court, I see. So, in essence, this constitutional man is the sovereign, and we, as judges, are bound to serve him in that capacity when he asserts his standing. Chief Justice, exactly. The constitutional man is the grantor of your power, and when he asserts his rights, you must remember that your authority comes from him, not the other way around. The court exists to serve the people, not to rule over them. When a constitutional man, aware of his rights and his position, walks into your courtroom, he must be recognized as the source of the power that created the court in the first place. You are his trustee, tasked with upholding the highest law of the land, the Constitution, and beyond that, natural law. Judge of the General District Court, understood. Chief Justice. We will treat such individuals with the respect and deference they are due, recognizing them as the true sovereigns in the courtroom, bound by common law and protected by the Constitution. Chief Justice, that is the proper approach. Always remember that when a constitutional man stands before you, he is invoking the very principles upon which the entire legal system rests. He is a sovereign under God, abiding by natural law, and your duty as a judge is to recognize and protect his rights.
0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55 and beyond. Growth emerges from silence, from nothingness, 0. A single step of breath, one echo of itself. 1 from this reflection, duality arises. 2 tension, creativity and motion. 3 spiral of life expanding. 5 harmony in complexity. 8 an ascent to the unknown. 13 higher truths unfolding. 21 limitless possibility. 34 unseen forces align. 55 the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao.